think the whole thing is terrifying from the beginning. She's already in total fight or flight mode, obviously finding herself in that circumstances, and even more vulnerable because she's pregnant. And so when the women first come in, she feels, as soon as they start to talk to her and say, we're here to support, it's almost quite comforting. And then she's lulled into a false sense of security. And then Davina obviously turns on her. And once they find out that supposedly she gave herself to Lord Lovett as opposed to being sexually assaulted, that's when it sours. And I think for Julia, that's when she's fighting for her life. I mean, that's when animal instincts kick in, and it's that like tiger mum, animalistic sort of guarding your cubs, like, or even it is her, but she's guarding this baby within an inch of her life, and she's willing to do anything to do that. It was physically very tiring. We were in the same room for about 3 or 4 days, or 3 days, I think, and the air we had the fire on and like the candles, and the oxygen when you're in lots of people in one space, the oxygen just goes out of the room. So, and it gets hot, and you're continuously, using your voice in a certain way. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but I love the challenge. I think that's the kind of material you want to be getting in scripts and be like, great, right, let's get this right. Let's push it. Yes, yeah. They've found a common ground, and I think Davina's accepting of Julia finally. Definitely, it was very it was very intense, and all the actors were superb, and they really went for it on the day. And because I was physically struggling against them, and they got to a point where I was so tired, I was actually like, I don't think I can physically do this anymore. I was like, guys, do you mind loosening the grip? Because like, I can't actually stand up anymore. So yeah, it was physically and mentally quite demanding, I'd say. Yeah. I'm also wondering who this baby's going to turn out to be, because there's the prophecy as well. That's that whole whispers of the prophecy. But I don't know. I think Julia's interesting because I think she's extremely pragmatic, but also does lean into folklore and that side of things and the otherworldly. But I think with this, part of her wants to believe all of the things that the seer says, but also I think some of it, I don't think she believes that her son will fulfill that prophecy. I think, it's an interesting combination. I think she believes some things and doesn't believe others, because I think that some of it could just be flattery for Lovett, the prophecy, and part of it is true, But I think the seer kind of, in Julia's mind, does a bit of both to keep him sweet, but then also does have the ability to see some things. Definitely. Yeah. She's in a very precarious situation because she has to protect this newborn child, but then also she's obviously searching for her husband and trying to get back to him. So it's a slightly impossible scenario.
It was one of my favourite scenes to film out the whole first season, just because that episode, especially those two characters, have been through so much. They've totally changed from the start of that episode to the end of the episode, and I think as actors, Hermione and I, we both really enjoyed filming that because there's a real baby there. And whenever you're working, this show was the first time I've ever worked with a baby, and it's like a newborn baby, right? It's like I think this one was like 2 weeks old or something. It was,
so
and when they're there, it really just adds. You forget you're acting, honestly, because you have to take care of this baby. So if she moves, I'm Jamie is the one who's like making sure the baby doesn't roll off the bed or something like that, So it just totally grounds you, and I think Hermione had been through so much, you know, because she kills that episode. It's brilliant, you know.
She's brilliant.
She just gave it her all, and then I think she was exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted as well, and there was just this moment of quiet and stillness between the actors, but also these two characters, and it just really was lovely to film.
It was really beautiful, and it showed that they're closer now.
Absolutely.
They're allied.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
She'll be helpful to you.
It's
too.
a
Like
really
that.
beautiful scene. It made me quite emotional actually, that scene. The bit with the candle, and there's a real bond between them, you can tell.
I can feel it in my chest still.
Aw.
it's there.
Yeah, it's a scene that a lot of thought went into how to go about that, because there's sort of two things, really, that we're thinking about. You've got to, first of all, we need to sympathize with Henry. We don't want the audience to hate him when he goes and does what he does, so we need to sort of really see how broken he is, I suppose. And the second one is, we've seen how wonderful Julia and Henry are together, and now we need to really believe that, if he thinks that she's gone, then part of him has died as well, and it's she really was everything to him. So I wanted to go and sort of show that sort of extreme moment of desolation and grief. But then I thought, wouldn't it be, in the script, it was sort of like, then he starts running and talking about the war. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be unsettling to watch if actually he then starts laughing? And we go from desolation to elation. Sort of really make it quite strange. And then the way that they filmed it was brilliant for that. They sort of, added, suddenly you've got a 1920s woman with a bicycle coming past, and suddenly the 1920s and 1700s start blurring together. It was a really sort of interesting sequence to shoot. And as an actor, you just, there's so much you can do with that. It's great. And I was allowed to really sort of run with it. Loads of times. I'm sick of it by the end. He's in this, living in a psychotic fantasy at that point, and goes to the brothel. In his mind, he goes back to a safe place, a place when there was love and there was hope. And he goes back to the safest, most hope-filled memory in his past. And that's this moment at the end of the war when he comes back to see Julia and they make love. And, it's that in his mangled brain becomes Seema and becomes the brothel. And it all gets very twisted up for him. How do we pull that off, I think, was the first sort of thought. Because, on the page, it's quite a punch in the face when you read it. And you go, oh, okay, and then we reshot something for it. I don't know what it was now, but we went and added more and more, basically, to that sequence to really hammer home that this is someone, out of his mind, rather than someone doing something slightly nefarious, which isn't what it is. Yeah.